What's up, guys? Mr. Dan here, back again with another storytime video. Storytime number 5. This is an unexpected storytime video. I was not planning on even making a storytime video for this film, as I've discussed it a little bit here and there. I know I discussed it on my interview with Raul Mad Blood from the Mad Bloods. If you want to go check out that interview, I've discussed it a few times on live streams with people, my affinity for this film and how it influenced my interest in horror. But I decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and retell it because in the storytime format, because this is going to be featured in an upcoming episode of Slasher Movie Club on the Night Watch Zone. Okay, so that's one of my favorite series that they do on the Night Watch Zone. I rarely miss an episode of that. So, and they did do it on the old channel, but those videos were removed, so they're redoing it this Monday coming up. So if you're watching this video at a later date, if you want to go back and check out that episode, that would be great. And the movie is Tourist Trap, 1979's Tourist Trap, starring Chuck Connors and Tanya Roberts. Okay, so let me paint your picture, okay? These storytime videos aren't so much as a review. I'll discuss the film to some degree in a moment, but it's about the whole experience. So there I am. I'm in my room when I was a kid. I had to do the math here. Okay, I was in double digits, so I was over 10 years old. Okay, between 10 and 15, we'll say. I don't want to date myself too much, but, from the guy that puts pictures of his granddaughter up on my other Instagram page constantly. But anyway, I was pretty young, and I hadn't really seen anything that was really hardcore as far as horror. I had been scared and creeped out a little bit by some films. The Flesh Eaters, where the mad scientist feeds the flesh-eating creatures to the guy, and they start to eat his stomach away from the inside. That kind of got me when I was a kid. It's like a Saturday afternoon. I had no idea what this movie was. Pretty much, if it was a movie on the UHF channels on a weekend afternoon, I watched it. Okay, I'm not sure if it was in a slot that was meant for horror. Okay, it was not on either one of the Dr. Shock shows. I do have a book that has a list of everything that he ever showed, so this is not on there. And it's funny. Side note, back then movies would be in the theater, and if you missed it, you would have to wait like a year before it would be on TV, and it would be on like one of the prime time networks, and then maybe eventually it would show up on UHF channels in the afternoon or whenever they wanted to show it. A lot of horror movies just, they went straight to the UHF channels. It's just kind of weird the way that worked. Not long after it came out, it's on a Saturday afternoon on UHF channel. I guess it worked out for us horror fans. But anyway, I start watching this thing, and the soundtrack of this is great. I don't recall the composer's name. I believe his first name is like Pino. And it starts out with like a let's go to the carnival kind of a vibe, like doot 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 doot, and it's like and then it goes bum 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 bum, and it turns dark, and it really throws you off. The music is part of what really got to me when I was a kid. It's a very important part of the film. It's a very overlooked soundtrack, and then it starts out where there's a couple carloads of kids going on a trip, and you see one guy's broken down and he's got a flat tire, and he rolls it down to a gas station. He goes in, nobody's there. He kind of peeks into the back room. He thinks he sees someone sleeping, and he kind of taps him on the shoulder, and all of a sudden it's a mannequin, and the mannequin jumps up and it's like bouncing, and it's got like a wig on, and it starts laughing. And it's just so creepy. And you got to remember, when you're a kid, puppets, mannequins, all these things kind of probably creeped you out a little bit, right? And then another one like comes through the window and is laughing, and there's all this laughing, and he's trying to leave and he can't get the door open, and there's this cabinet that opens up and everything in there is like vibrating. There's like cans and things. And you see this pipe, and the pipe is like bouncing and vibrating, and all of a sudden like bottles start like hitting the wall around the guy as he's trying to get the door open. and then all of a sudden the pipe just flies and launches right into the side, his lower back. And you see this great shot of this silent scream where he's like, ah. And then since it's a pipe, blood comes out of the pipe. Okay? So I'm a pretty young kid watching this going, what the hell is this? Like, this is one of the first really creepy, scary movies I've ever seen. I was not ready. Okay? I was not ready. And it's almost surprising that this was... I'm pretty sure I saw like a totally uncut version. And there's not much blood after that. It's more psychological. At any rate, the other carload of kids arrives at like an old campground / roadside museum, which is abandoned, and there's a guy named Mr. Slauson there who runs the place, and his brother, according to him, used to make these animatronic mannequins, that actually moved. You press the buttons and they can move and things like that. But he was so talented that he moved away and he works in Hollywood or something like that. That's what he says. And then mysterious things start happening to their car, and you see like hints of like telekinesis going on. And there's a couple deaths early in the film. One of them involved suffocation. And again, after that opening scene, then now you got a suffocation scene, I mean, when you're a kid, if you see a couple teenagers doing it and a guy with a hockey mask comes in and with a spear and spears both of them, you're going to think to yourself, that's not going to happen to me anytime soon, right? But suffocating, there's something about that, even though, it involved a guy like putting like plaster on a girl's face. It tapped into a psychological fear, And the rest of the movie is pretty good. Some of the later kills weren't as memorable. I didn't really remember them until I rewatched the film years and years later when I discovered it on YouTube. I was so happy to find it. But yeah, it just like scarred me, man. It like scared me. Also, there's a scene where he like throws a mannequin head. There's always a chase scene. Somebody gets away. They get chased. The Chuck Connors character, who, by the way, Chuck Connors took this role on purpose. He wanted to be in a horror movie. He wanted to be like a horror icon at this phase in his career. Whereas a lot of actors like, I need a paycheck, I might as well jump in this horror movie. And it's a shame. He was in a few other horror films, but he was willing to do that. I really wish he could have had a role in like a series of 3 or 4 films and kind of put more of a capstone on his career. He's really good in this. But there's a scene where he throws this mannequin head, and then the mannequin head slowly turns, and then it opens its mouth and screams. And that's the other thing that got me when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, it just stuck with me. Yeah, overall, I used to think that a lot of people regarded this film as a curiosity. It's a pretty significant film, actually. I think it was influenced to a degree by other films. I think some of the production folks, the set designers that worked on Texas Chainsaw Massacre worked on this. But it also has influenced other films. The House of Wax film, which had nothing to do with the Vincent Price original House of Wax film, really is almost like a remake of this. It's I don't know about remake, but it's certainly an homage. It borrows heavily from this film. Heavily. If you've ever seen that. There it is, guys. What was the first film that you saw on TV? Did you accidentally watch anything on TV when you were younger that like you shouldn't have watched, that like scarred you? What was the first like really scary movie that you guys watched on TV? Okay, guys, that's it. Tourist Trap. Check out that Slasher Movie Club episode on Monday. See you then.